Hey there, folks. How you doing today? Welcome back to the channel, and please bear with any background racket that you might hear throughout this production. We are on location where life happens. There's stuff going on out there that might be heard in here. Let's not let it stand in the way of all the fun that we have in store for you. Also, I have about 4 pages of notes that I've written down by hand to share with you concerning the optic that we're going to be reviewing on today's video. So if you see me looking down like this, I'm checking my notes to make sure that I get the information correct. That being said, out here on the table in front of us, we have, for starters, a safe and empty weapon. This is our Bear Creek Arsenal BC-102. We have a couple of videos on the channel on this weapon. If you'd like to check those out, I'll put links to them down in the description. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Rather, this is just the platform, the vehicle, if you will, that we are using to discuss the optic that is mounted up on top of it. Now, this optic was sent to us by the folks over at Cyelee, Cyelee. I've heard it called all kinds of things on the internet. I've actually heard it called a couple of different things in the same video. So I reached out to them and asked them how to pronounce it. I didn't hear anything back. We're going to go with Cyelee because that seems to be the consensus. If that's not the way you pronounce it, forgive me. All right. This is not the first optic review we've done on a Cyelee optic. If you remember back a little over a year ago, we reviewed the Cyelee Wolf 2 astigmatism model. We did that at our expense. I bought that thing, took it out, tested it, played with it. It worked okay, but the 64 MOA ring that is on the reticle of that optic, there was something wrong with the geometry of how they had it set up. And the further you moved it away from your face, the bigger that thing got. And at full extension, I couldn't see it in the reticle, which kind of rendered it useless for me. There might be some of you out there that were able to use it in that manner, but it didn't work for me. I did finally mount it on top of a carbine where it was closer to my eye, and that worked okay, but it certainly wasn't what it was intended for. So I was about ready to just write off Cyelee. I wasn't interested in purchasing or reviewing any more of their products, but then they reached out to me and they asked me to test this. They're all new. It's a few months old now, but it's supposed to be their flagship optic. It is the Ghost HDG optic. Now, it did take me a little bit of digging around on the internet to figure out what HDG stood for. Turns out it means it is heavy duty grade, so take that for what it's worth. Now, reading through some of the literature in their promotional information that they have online concerning this optic is about like trying to make sense of all of the subtitles that you see on a foreign action flick. And a little bit easier than making sense of the view.
I'm sorry, that's what you said.
That comment probably got me demonetized, so from here on out, let's stick to the script. Okay, the Ghost HDG has 3 different modes. It has a 2 MOA dot, which is really pretty good. It has a 26 MOA ring. Remember, I told you on the Wolf 2, there was a 64 MOA ring, so this one is less than half the size. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute. And then the third option for a reticle is the ring with the dot in the middle of it. Regardless of which version of that you choose to use, I found it to be much more usable for me than the reticle on the Wolf 2 optic. The unit is drop tested to 6 feet, mounted on a 45-ounce gun on concrete. Look, in the past, concerning budget optics that we have tested, we've soaked them in water, we've thrown them at trees, we've bounced them off of the ground, to the point of I have wrecked the finish on more than a couple of my firearms by doing so. This is actually kind of a nice gun, and I don't want to tear it up, so we're not going to do that today. But suffice it to say, I've really never had an optic fail short of just absolute abuse, and I don't see that as being an issue with this one. If you want to see this optic beat on and thrown around, there's actually a couple of really good review videos on it that Cyelee has on their page on YouTube that'll show you that happening. Okay, The unit has an IPX7 waterproof rating. What does that mean? They say it's fully submersible. It probably is. I'd say it's probably okay to get it wet in the rain, or if you dropped it in a puddle, I wouldn't go swimming with it. Now, the unit is manufactured out of 7075 T6 aluminum, which is aerospace grade. It's the same stuff they make quality AR parts out of, and probably more than sufficient for the task at hand. The unit features a huge 26.5 millimeter window. The window on this optic is impressive in size. That being said, the optic is impressive in size. That's not necessarily a good thing, depending on what you plan to do with it. If you look at how big it is sitting on top of this full-size handgun, you'll see that it is quite large. It's also quite wide. Now, this is such a thing that Cyelee even puts in their literature that this unit will not fit all models. They have a little diagram they show up here of how it actually can overhang the ejection port on some pistols and cause malfunctions. Anything getting in the way of that ejection port can induce a stovepipe or a failure to go into battery or a double feed or all kinds of issues. We actually, in my line of work, train for those kind of things by putting something in the way of it to keep the shell from clearing as it was intended to. You'll notice here on this pistol, which is technically a compact in length, it's the same size as a Glock 19. This portion of the slide on a Glock 19 is the same size as it is on a full-size Glock. This pistol is a third generation Glock copy, so as you can see, and I'll put a close-up here, the optic just simply is not in the way of that ejection port, and I wouldn't worry about it on something the size of this handgun. Just know that they say that it won't fit on all of them, and they specifically say that it's not intended for something like a micro 9. This is a large optic. So you might be wondering, why is it so large? Well, as they tout it as professional grade, as they tout it for extreme use, you'll notice here, and I'll put up another close-up so you can see, we have these very large, robust aluminum rings. They're not part of the frame of the window. They stand alone and are isolated a little bit. And those are on there to protect the frame window in the event of impact with the ground. You know, this thing goes crashing on the ground. It's going to land on top of these ears and protect the window. That's the whole basis behind that design. The optic features a shake awake feature, which they don't call it shake awake, they call it motion deactivated standby, or MDS, which was instantaneous. As you can see here, there was no delay. We've actually seen a couple of optics that we've tested in the past that you had to kind of tap on them or shake them good to get them to wake up. As soon as you touch this thing, it came back on, and that's what we're looking for. I'm not going to make you sit through the whole 3.5 minutes that it took to test it, but this optic timed out and went into that standby mode in 3 minutes and 41 seconds, according to my stopwatch. The optic utilizes a Trijicon RMR/HoloSun 507 footprint and is compatible with most pistols that will accommodate that footprint by means of the 16 sets of screws that come with it in their anything and everything mounting kit. I actually did a little short on this before I knew that they called it that. I did a short on this optic here on the channel a few months ago, talking about all the different sets of screws that came with it. I had no problems selecting the proper set of screws to mount on top of this pistol out of the supplied hardware. That is huge because quite often you'll buy one of these things and it won't come with the screws you need, and you wind up scouring the urine-scented back alleys of the internet trying to find the correct ones for your application. That being said, one drawback, one negative to this optic that I noticed, and I kind of thought at this point in the game it was just an automatic. Maybe it's because it was a test model and they just didn't send it out with it. I don't know. I couldn't find anything in the literature that said it was included. But most optics like this come with a pick rail adapter at this point in the game, and this optic did not, which I thought was kind of strange, particularly given the price point.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Speaking of that price point, what's the damage on this thing? Well, If you jump over to Amazon, you'll see that Cyelee sells this optic for $282.94. That's coming in just under the cost of a HoloSun 507K at $319.99 and $8 north of half the price of a Trijicon RSO. I think we've covered about as much shop talk with this thing as you folks are going to be able to tolerate from me, so let's head over to the range and see how it did. So for starters, I mounted the optic on top of the pistol. I took it out to the range. I set up a bullseye target at 10 yards. And with slow and deliberate fire, utilizing that 2 MOA dot, I was able to hold a really nice little group. Now keep in mind, I had yet to zero the optic on the pistol, but you'll see here that out of 5 rounds, I had 4 of them touching, and the round that I flinched with just really wasn't that bad. Now again, that was slow and deliberate fire. Moving on to utilizing that 26 MOA dot and shooting as fast as I could get it back on the bullseye. You'll see that the group opened up quite a bit, but it was still smaller than this channel sticker that we have here on the program. Speaking of the channel sticker, I have a bunch of these. I also have some of our Rumble channel stickers up there. If you want one, let me know down in the comments section. I'll shoot you my email address so that you can send me your address, and I'll mail you one. No questions asked. I might even include something else in the package as my token of saying thanks for watching. Understand, I cannot send you one of these if I don't know where to send it to. A lot of people freak out when you ask for their address. That's what we use it for, is for mailing the promotional item to you.
I'm an influencer.
Once I had the optic sighted in, I took it out and started ringing on a reduced size silhouette at 50 yards. I think this thing's 12 inches by 18, including the head, so probably like a 12-inch by 14-inch body, something right about like that, at 50 yards, shooting it about as quick as I could get a good sight picture. We had a good percentage of hits there. So what are my final thoughts on this fine optic? Well, I think it's a pretty good one. It's certainly a better optic than the Wolf 2 Astigmatism model was. And considering its intended purpose, I think it's probably pretty good for that. Now, there are, again, a couple of drawbacks with it. One is it is so large that for its footprint pattern, it's not going to fit on all applications that a regular RMR or 507 style optic would fit on. This thing is rather large, and you have to plan accordingly with the use of it. At this point in the game, It might interfere with some holsters, so you might have to take a tool to your holster if the fore end of the optic sticks out too far for it to seat properly utilizing it. Also, depending on the way you're going to carry it, like in an appendix inside the waistband type carry, this great big housing on the optic, while rounded off so it's not going to poke you, might dig a little bit just based on the size. This thing really is huge. I find it very robust. You can use it to cock the weapon with. I did that several times out at the range, and I didn't have any issues with it loosening up on the mount or with it losing its zero. As I mentioned before, I'm not going to throw this nice pistol on the ground like we have in some of the applications that we've done in the past, just because I find it to be fruitless and I don't want to tear up the nice things that we have. If I were looking for an optic like this, I would consider this one. Keep in mind the price point is a little bit high there. Now, some of the optic manufacturers, like Gowutar, have worked with us in the past. When we review their optics, they give me a coupon code, and I can pass it on to you so you can save a few bucks on the optic. I'm going to reach out to the folks at Cyelee and see if they'll toss us one for this. If they do, I'll put it in the description of this video. Hey there, folks. Thanks for watching today's production. Before you leave, let me ask you for just a moment of your time. I'm not asking you to buy anything. I'm not asking for anything directly from you other than a few more moments of your time. If you look out here on the table in front of me, you'll see the Bear Creek BC 10mm. There's several of you that have seen the review that we did on this platform here on the channel. You might also recall the review we did on the BC Grizzly, and also we've reviewed a couple of their other products that they have sent out to us for the purpose of review. Now, last time I spoke to the folks over there at Bear Creek, they said in order to keep sending stuff free gratis for us to review on this platform, they're going to need to show that they're getting traffic to their point of interest from this platform. And in order to do that, I need y'all to jump down to the pinned comment on this video. Check out that link that is right there. Just go over to their website, and by clicking on it and checking it out, it'll show that people are watching what I'm putting down over here and they are following up on it. I'm not asking you to buy anything. You don't have to buy anything, but it'll just show the folks over at Bear Creek that their investment in advertising dollars is well spent. If you do that for me, I'd appreciate it. I would consider it a personal favor. And until next time, thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.